In addition to squamous, cuboidal, and columnar epithelia, epithelial tissue contains glands. Glandular secretions may be coming from a single cell or from an organ, but there are two types of glandular organs. Endocrine glands that secrete outside the cells, that is, the pancreas secretes directly into the bloodstream. Exocrine glands secrete onto the surface through a duct. Good examples of that would be sebaceous glands and sweat glands. So there are three types of secretions by glandular epithelial cells. You might want to pause here to look over this diagram. Here we can see the three types of secretions. Merocrine secretions are merely simple secretions from the cell. An example would be the pancreas. Apocrine secretions secrete part of the cell. A good example here are the mammary glands that secrete the breast milk. Holocrine glands secrete the whole cell. Holocrine, whole cell, and these would be sebaceous glands. So as that secretion is being exuded, the entire cell is released. Glands can be classified as simple or complex. In this case, look at the colors of the ducts and the gland cells. The gland cells are pink, the duct cells are blue, and here there is a simple duct that it is not branched. Then it can be, the simple ones can be subclassified as tubular, coiled tubular, branched tubular, and then alveolar, simple alveolar, or simple branched alveolar. The compound exocrine glands, again, look at the blue versus the pink. The blue ducts have, it's not a simple duct, but a compound duct. So we have compound tubular, compound alveolar, and you can see those sac-like glands there, and compound tubulo-alveolar, which is a combination of tubular and alveolar. We also see, and this is quite common, large cells that secrete mucin. Mucin combines with water to form mucus. And we find these in ciliated columnar epithelium in the intestinal tract. I suggest you pause for each question, think about the answer, and then restart the video to get the answer. Our second type of tissue is connective tissue. This raisin bread is supposed to remind you that our connective tissue cells are far apart. The raisins are the cells, and the matrix would be the bread. With epithelial tissue, those cells are very close together, often forming a barrier. Here, the cells are far apart. You might want to pause at this slide to look at it in detail, but we'll see that there are 3 types of connective tissue. You need to know the 3 types and examples of each type. Connective tissue proper consists of loose and dense connective tissue. It's very common. Loose areolar is the most common connective tissue in the body. Adipose is fat tissue. Reticular tissue is packaging. Dense connective tissue, you'll see a very different picture with fibers basically filling up the entire cell. In the dense category will be dense regular, dense irregular, and elastic. Fluid connective tissue is easy, it's just blood and lymph. And supportive connective tissue is bone and cartilage, but there are 3 types of cartilage: hyaline, elastic, and fibrous. Overall, the functions include framework, transportation, protecting organs, supporting, surrounding, and interconnecting types of tissue, storing energy as a triglyceride, and immunity, defecting the body from invading pathogens. Loose connective tissue consists of cells surrounded by a lot of protein fibers, as well as viscous, which means thick, ground substance. Well, there are 2 classes of cells, fixed and wandering. We'll see each different type of fixed and wandering cells. Fixed cells are stationary, and their function is to repair, maintain, and store energy. And wandering cell moves around throughout the tissue for repair as well as immunity, that is defense. 3 types of protein fibers. Reticular fibers are strong and form a meshwork. Collagen fibers are extremely strong and are thick white fibers for strength, and elastic fibers are slender for stretch. So there are 3 types of loose connective tissue. Areolar tissue is the most common for packaging throughout the body, and it has all of the different cell types in it. So it's a very diverse kind of tissue. Adipose tissue is mainly adipocytes filled with triglycerides for energy storage. We find adipose tissue in various spots of the body, but underneath the skin. Reticular tissue is found in a variety of organs: liver, kidney, spleen, lymph nodes, and it is a meshwork for support. You might want to pause on this to look at the different fibers and cell types. Adipose tissue is, the cell is the adipocyte. The cell is filled with fat in the form of triglyceride. Triglycerides are the most abundant fat in our diet, as well as for storage in our body. Reticular tissue is found in a variety of organs. It's a meshwork of reticular fibers. Dense connective tissue looks very different from loose connective tissue. The fibers are packed together. Dense regular is the strongest. It is found in tendons and ligaments, and you'll see wavy fibers of collagen. Dense irregular is, again, quite strong because of the collagen, but it looks less regular. It is irregular. And elastic is more for stretch than for strength. Dense regular connective tissue is found in tendons and ligaments, and you can see the pink collagen fibers and the fibroblast nuclei. Dense irregular tissue is found in the dermis, and those collagen fibers are abundant, but in an irregular formation. And elastic fibers have a different look. The two types of fluid connective tissue, blood and lymph. In blood, the matrix is the plasma, and the cells and cell fragments are called formed elements. This is because some of the cells are not true cells, such as the red blood cell. It's lost its nucleus. It's not a complete cell anymore. White blood cells are there. There are 5 different types. And platelets are just cell fragments. Lymph consists of the watery matrix called lymph, and the cells are lymphocytes or white blood cells. Blood is moved by the heart through the blood vessels. Arteries move blood away from the heart. Veins move blood toward the heart, and capillaries are the site of exchange of nutrients and gases. Here are the types of formed elements in the blood. The red blood cells have lost their nucleus, so they're no longer rounded. They carry oxygen. The white blood cells are defend against disease, and there are 5 different types: monocytes, lymphocytes, eosinophils, neutrophils, and basophils. Lymphocytes are most common in lymph, and then platelets are parts of cells that are for blood clotting. Lymph comes essentially from the blood. As blood travels throughout the body and the capillaries leak out some of the plasma, that plasma accumulates in the tissue fluids. It is then collected from the tissue fluids, and once it enters a lymphatic vessel, it becomes lymph. This lymph is returned to the blood up by the heart. So the lymphatic system returns excess fluid back to the bloodstream, as well as fighting infection.